Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillahi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in wa ba'd. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Yesterday we lost a very, very important person in this da'wah. And this da'wah of Ahl Sunnati wa Jama'ah, the da'wah of Salafiyah in America. And in the West in general, we lost our brother, our teacher, our Shaykh, Abu Mujahid Farid Abdullah. And I'm going to try to record this video. This is now the third time that I've attempted to record this video, and I can't seem to hold back the sadness that I feel. So, inshallah, we're going to try to get through this as quickly as possible, inshallah. So we know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, and we know that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said in the hadith in Abdullah ibn Amr ibn al-As, radiyallahu anhu, which he said, Qala Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, إن الله لا يقبض العلم انتزاعا ينتزعه من الناس. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not take away the knowledge from the people by just taking it, just ripping it away from the people and just taking it out of their chest. ولكن يقبض العلم بقبض العلماء. But He takes the knowledge away from the people by taking away the ulama, the people, the scholars and the people of knowledge. حتى إذا لم يبقى عالما اتخذ الناس رؤوسا جهالا. Until in an area there might not even be an alim that's even available. So that then the people, they start to take these ignorant people as their leaders, as their shuyukh. فأفتوا بغير علم. And then they speak without, then they give these fatwa with no knowledge. فأضلوا وأضلوا. And then they go astray, and they lead the people astray. And this hadith is in Bukhari and Muslim. So we see that each as this time goes, as we can constantly lose these people of knowledge, that they're not being replaced. And we're finding like different areas where there used to be a lot of ulama, no ulama exists. Look at Naysabur, look at Bukhara, look at Basra, look at Kufa, and look at all of these places. Look at Dimashq, look at Misr. Like, these places were just full of ulama. Go read through the history of these places and see all the ulama that used to just, ulama of the language, ulama of hadith, ulama of all the different sciences of the deen. And then they died, and nobody was replacing them. So we've seen in our own time, from going back to like 1999, in 1 year, in 1999, where we experienced the death of Shaykh Muhammad Nasiruddin al-Albani, rahimahullah, and we experienced the death of Abdulaziz ibn Abdullah ibn Baz, rahimahullah. And then we fast forward to 2001, where we experienced the deaths of two other very huge individuals. The first death was the death of the Shaykh Muhammad al-Uthaymeen, and then it was followed after that by the death of Shaykh Muqbil ibn Hadi al-Wadi'i, rahimahullah. And now we've lost the biggest, what we consider the only scholar that we've ever had in the West, and Farid Abdullah, Allah yarhamu. And the problem is that the people didn't even understand, and they didn't even know who this person was, nor did they understand the value of what this brother had, like what he had and what he was able to benefit the people with. But the people who sat with him, they knew. And that's why nobody ever sat with Abu Mujahid, except for they left from that sitting and they loved him. They loved him more than they loved anybody. And they wanted to sit with him more and more and more. I never met a person, I don't care what his methodology is, whether he was Salafi or whatever he was, if he sat with Farid, he changed. He changed by the permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if he didn't become Salafi and start to take on the characteristics of Ahl Sunnati wa Jama'ah, he at least had a lot of respect for Ahl Sunnah. He would leave out of the sitting with Farid with a lot more respect. And even in the time that I was there, Farid, the MSA of USC, which is University of Southern California, they all took Farid as their Shaykh. And Farid used to go to USC regularly, weekly, and give classes at USC. as well as other places that he would go around Los Angeles and give classes to people and teach the people the Sunnah. And the people don't understand what we lost. But like I said, the people that sat with Fareed, the people that truly benefited from him and sat around him, they know. They know. And I don't think there's one from amongst us that is not full of sadness now, because we know that gap that he left, that he left, it can never be filled. Like the type of knowledge that he had, the type of manners and the type of character that he had, it would take a whole bunch of us to even attempt to fill that gap that was left behind. So just like we saw with the death of Shaykh bin Baz, rahimahullah, the death of Shaykh bin Baz happened over 24 years ago, and we've not seen another Shaykh bin Baz. The same thing with the death of Shaykh al-Albani, almost 24 years ago. In October, I believe he died, if I'm not mistaken, Allah yarhamu. And we haven't seen another Shaykh al-Albani. Shaykh Uthaymeen, rahimahullah, look at the benefit that we still benefit 22 years after this man's death. There is not a book in any science in the religion except for the Shaykh Uthaymeen has written about it. And we continue to benefit till today. But we don't have another Shaykh Uthaymeen. He doesn't exist. There's nobody on the face of this earth today that you could say has the knowledge like Shaykh Uthaymeen. The ability to teach, the ability to break the masail down, to make something very difficult easy. And then on top of that, just to keep giving you examples and examples until you understand it. All anyone has to do is read any of the shuruh, any of the explanations that Shaykh Uthaymeen has, from whatever you read. Whether you're reading in Mustalah Hadith, you can read Al-Bayquniyah, An-Nushat An-Nadhr, while you're reading the different books of Aqidah, where he's got like a sharh for Wasatiyah, he's got a sharh for Tadmuriyah. He wrote a risala, it's called Taqribu Tadmuriyah, which is bringing the person closer to the Tadmuriyah. And then he has an explanation of Taqribu Tadmuriyah. Or also in Tawheed, where he's got an explanation of Al-Usul Thalatha, Kashf Shubahat. He's got an explanation of Kitab al-Tawheed, which is called Al-Qawl al-Mufid. All anyone has to do is read through any of these explanations. Go to Nahu, he's got Al-Ajrumiyah, and he's got Alfiyat ibn Malik, and he's got one more, but I can't remember the name of the explanation. So, and look at if you read through like his sharh of Alfiyat ibn Malik, and you see how he takes these difficult qawaid and just breaks it down and makes it so easy for the people to understand. You don't have another person like that now. So the point here is that we should always try our best to make sure that, while these people are around, while they still exist, whatever still exists now, that we should make sure that we take advantage of this and we try to benefit to the best of our capabilities. Because they're not going to be here any longer. And they're not going to be here forever. And when they go, nobody is going to replace them the way that they were. We don't live like in the times before. We don't live in the times where you had the tabi'een when they died out. Then you had the atba'a tabi'een, and then you had after the atba'a tabi'een, then you had people like Imam Ahmad, Imam Muslim, Imam Bukhari. We don't have that. So what's happening nowadays is that these ulama, they die, and it just leaves this huge opening that's never going to be filled until the Day of Judgment. And yes, there's always going to be people that are calling to the haqq, that are calling to the truth, and they have knowledge, but it's not the same. Like, each individual had different abilities. You look at like somebody like Sheikh Muhammad ibn Adam in Ethiopia. Show me somebody now today that's going to replace him. Who's going to replace him? The students nowadays, if you look at the students of knowledge and the level of students of knowledge, they're not serious like they were before. So many students of knowledge are so busy with social media, they're busy with so many different things that they don't really dedicate their time, full time to knowledge like the people from before. So when we look at the people like Shaykh Muqbil, rahimahullah, Shaykh Muqbil, once he learned about the deen, he was a Muslim, but once he learned about studying the deen, and once he learned that the science of hadith, that you can learn, the science of hadith, and you can understand when a hadith is sahih and when it's not sahih, he dedicated all of his time to that. There was no social media. There was no chit-chatting in the restaurant. There was nothing. Every waking hour that he had was dedicated to that. And as he became more and more knowledgeable, when he wasn't learning, he was teaching. Because he wanted to continue, he wanted the people, he wanted it to benefit. He wanted the people to taste the sweetness of what he tasted, of that knowledge, of the knowledge that was left behind from our Salaf. You know, because it's just going to sit in books. And then what? Who's going to get it? Who's going to take it out and give it to the people? So us, even in the West, we don't have that type of, we don't have even what, like you look at Saudi Arabia. Okay, yeah, Shaykh Uthaymeen died and Shaykh bin Baz died, but they still have ulama, right? We don't have that. If you find a person who's knowledgeable, and a person, especially in the West, you have to take advantage of it. If you live in an area where you see that there's a student of knowledge and he's teaching the people, take advantage of it. If he's calling to the Sunnah, you know, whatever knowledge he has, take it. But always try to get out of the country and try to go sit with the real, you know, like the real ulama, the real students of knowledge. You know, not saying that the brothers in the West are not students of knowledge, because they are. We have some, but they differ, you know. You have brothers that are very serious. You have brothers that are in the medium, in the middle grounds. And then you have people that just went overseas and sat with ulama, but they really wasted a lot of time playing with social media and doing different types of stuff. So they don't really have that level of knowledge that you can truly benefit from. People differ. And even amongst the ulama, not everybody's going to be strong in every single thing. So of course, like you have ulama that are going to be stronger in hadith, and other ulama that are stronger in usul al-fiqh, other ulama that are stronger in the lugha, other ulama that are stronger in like masail al-fiqhiyah. So you got to find each one and try to benefit from what you can benefit from those people, because they're just getting fewer and fewer and fewer every single year. So I mean, this is a wake-up call. Every time that we lose somebody like this, whether he's in the West, whether he's in Yemen, whether he's in Sardiya, whether he's in Misr, wherever he is, wherever this person is if he's from Ahl Sunnah and he's a person of, you know, that's calling to the Sunnah and calling to the understanding of the Salaf Salih. We don't have time to waste where these people can just, like, you know, just die off and we haven't benefited from them. How many people were alive in the time of Shaykh al-Albani, rahimahullah? They lived right there in Jordan. Then they didn't find out about Shaykh al-Albani until after his death. And then what are you going to do? You can't study with him now. You know? And I was in Damaj when Shaykh Mubil, when he passed away in Sardiya, Allah yarhamu. And this type of sadness, you can never imagine the sadness. A whole village of people just completely, it's like they just lost, everybody at once just lost both of their parents. People were coming out of the masjid crying. I mean, you can't even imagine the sight. And these are not soft individuals. These are brothers that ended up years later fighting against the Houthis. These are brothers that are tough. But that pain of losing that person of knowledge, that person, because a person who teaches you the deen is more important to you than your mother and your father. Like my Shaykh and Shaykh Yahya ibn Ali al-Hajuri, he's more important to me than my own parents. You know, and I love him more than my own parents because I benefited more from him. I benefited from him how I can be a Muslim in the dunya, and how, inshallah, I can also strive to go and get the akhirah. Nobody from amongst my family taught me that. So, I mean, he is more beloved to me than my own family. And that's the way that we all feel when you sit with the ulama and you really, you understand the value of what this person has. And sometimes you might not even understand the value of the person. When I sat with Fareed, I knew he was knowledgeable, but I didn't have knowledge. So how can I put a value on Fareed and say, he's this and he's that? I can't. Shaykh Mubil did. Allah yarhamu. When Shaykh Mubil rahimahullah sat with Fareed, he said, he used to call him Shaykh Fareed. And he told the brothers, like, why do you want to go overseas? You want to study in Yemen, you study with this man right here. This is your Shaykh. Study with him and benefit from him. So Shaykh Mubil put the value on Fareed because he knew. When I went overseas and I started to study, and I sat with a lot of different du'at throughout America as I went on my journey all around the different masajid. Because I didn't know about the da'wat Salafiyah until I got to Atlanta. So once I got that taste of it, I wanted to learn more. I wanted more. So I wanted to go. I went to Philadelphia, and then Philadelphia, that's when I found out about Fareed. And that's why I got on a bus and traveled 3 days. Don't know anybody in Los Angeles. I knew nobody. And I got on a bus and traveled for 3 days on a Greyhound to get to Los Angeles, just so I can find out who this man is that they keep talking about. That the older brothers were the only brothers that were talking about him were the older brothers, because they had gone out to Los Angeles and they had met him. And they met the brothers in the masjid. So they knew them. But most of the younger brothers had no clue who he was. And even the older brothers couldn't even get his name right. So I asked them, I said, who's out in Los Angeles? And they said, Abdullah Fareed. So I thought his name was Abdullah Fareed. And then when I finally got to Los Angeles, after 3 days of eating honey buns and going on Greyhound journeys all through the desert and everywhere, when I got to Los Angeles, I had no idea where to go. No idea where to go. I go to a payphone. I try to look up the masjid in the phone book. I don't know, because I don't know the name of the street. I don't know the name of the masjid. I don't know anything. Until a person came up to me, a woman. She came up to me and said, "You look like you just came from the East Coast." I said, "I just came from Philly." She said, "Oh, I'm from Pittsburgh." I said, "That's cool." I said, "What can I do for you?" She's like, "Oh, me and my husband." I told her, I said, bring your husband. Let me speak with him. So she brought her husband, and I looked at her husband, and I said, "Do you know anybody that looks like me? Have you seen anybody that looks like me, dressed like me around here?" He said, "I did. In fact, I saw him over at the masjid over here on Friday, close to downtown." I said, "Can you take me there?" He said, Yeah, I'll take you there." So we hopped in a taxi, a Mexican taxi, not a real taxi. And, the Mexicans, they sit out at the bus stops, and they, I don't know if they still do this, but back in those days, that's what they used to do. And you just pay them money, and they take you wherever you got to go. So we went and, eventually found the masjid. And then that night, I met Fareed for the first time, and I explained to them the situation. Like, look, I'm just traveling around trying to find people that, I can learn from. And like right now, this is what brought me to Los Angeles. And then Fareed's like, "So you need a place to stay?" I was like, "Of course." I'm like, I don't know anybody there, And Fareed always looked out for me. From that day on, alhamdulillah, I just sat with him. Whenever I had any type of opportunity to sit with him, I would sit with him. So I'd think of anything just to go ask him, anything just to benefit from him. And I could tell you, when I sat overseas and learned, after asking Fareed all the questions and going over all the different masail, and I tell you that no da'i that I sat with from Los Angeles, and then after Los Angeles, I stayed in LA for a while, almost a year, and then I went to Texas because I wanted to be around like the Arabs, where it's all community, and they were all speaking Arabic. And there was a brother, Abu Ka'aka, he's also, Allah yarhamu, he passed, may Allah have mercy on him. He set it up for me to go to Texas, and because at that time Fareed was busy with Shaykh Mukbil. Shaykh Mukbil was in Los Angeles, Abu Ka'aka was helping me to set up where I could go to Yemen. So I didn't know that, but so I ended up in Texas. And I'm telling you, all of the people that I sat with on this journey around America, there's no one person that the more I learned, the more I respected. And I used to say that in the match. I used to say that to the brothers. I said, the more that I learn, the more I respect that man. But I don't respect the other people. Because they spoke, they used to speak and speak and speak without knowledge. And then I started to learn all their mistakes. And then as I was studying more and more and more, I started to see all their mistakes and all the things that they were saying. But except for Fareed. Fareed is the only person, the more I learned, the more I respected. And alhamdulillah, I was blessed to sit with him for as long as I sat with him. And, I left him and I ended up going to Yemen. Man taraka shay' lillah, awadahu Allahu khayran minhu. So I left Fareed for the sake of Allah, to get closer to Allah, because I wanted to learn the Arabic language. I wanted, Fareed was teaching in English, and I didn't want that anymore. I wanted to go, and be in an Arabic setting. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave me a trip to Yemen. And alhamdulillah, I ended up in Damaj. And, I would never exchange that, even if it was meant to sit with Fareed for 5 more years. I would never give up going to Yemen. As much as I love the brother for the sake of Allah, I just have to be pleased with the time that I sat with him. And thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with the time that I sat with him and the time that I benefited from. But I would have never understood the value of this man unless I went to Yemen and studied. And that's when you truly understand the value of the person that you sat with. The more I read, the more I study, the more I learn, the more I respect him, the more I respect Shaykh Yahya, and the more I respect of all the ulama that I sat with. You know, all the shuyukh and all the people of knowledge. Not all of them, but the vast majority of them. The ones that I respect, I gain more respect for the more and more I read and the more I learn. Because this knowledge process, it doesn't stop. It continues and continues and continues until we die. So we continue to seek knowledge and we continue to teach the people the knowledge. And this doesn't stop. It doesn't stop just because we come back to America. It doesn't stop because of some trials and tribulations. It doesn't stop because we experience war, famine, or anything. We keep it going. And we keep it going. Because we have to get serious, ya ikhwa. Like I told you, these people, like nowadays, the people are not serious like they were before. The students now, the students of knowledge are not as serious as the students of knowledge in the time that I was studying. Because we didn't have those distractions. Now you have the distractions and you use them all the time. We didn't have that. We had nothing. When we went to Damaj, when I went to Damaj, cut off from my family. Cut off from everything because there was nothing. We had no internet connection. The only thing we had was this big satellite phone that you could only talk for so many minutes before it starts burning your ear. And it's too expensive. So all I could really do is like once a month, call my mother, you know, Mom, I love you. Bye. That's it. I'm alive. And that's it. You know, so those distractions didn't exist. And you saw that the people were a different level. Now look what you see. Now it's not the same. We need a group of people that are going to go out and be serious. They're not going to be distracted and put all this social media away. Put all this foolishness away. Stop wasting your time on Twitter. Stop wasting your time going back and forth with all these buffoons. Stop wasting your time doing all this. Utilize your time to seek knowledge, to start memorizing the book of Allah, memorizing the sunnah of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and spend your time learning and teaching the people and implementing that knowledge and motivating the people to implement that knowledge until death overtakes you. And inshallah, if that's the type of life that you live, you can taraju min Allah khayran. You have the right to hope for with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Good. But you still have to fear that your actions will not be accepted. Always make sure that you're doing things for the sake of Allah. And you're not doing them for the people. We have to stop this. The people, especially the people that claim to be students of knowledge, all of us, we need to start getting more serious about these issues. What have we got now? Like, look around us. Look around us. Do we have a person right now that is going to teach Alfiyat ibn Malik from his memory in America with no books and no nothing? Do we have a person right now who's going to teach Bulugh al-Maram if you took the book away from him? Right now in America. Do we have a person now who's very, very well versed in all the chains of narration and everything in Sahih Muslim, Sahih Bukhari, and he can go and sit down and go through all the different books of hadith and do these tahqiqs? Do they exist? So what have we been doing? We need to work harder. And we need to start establishing something for the people so we can start motivating the people to go out and seek knowledge, come back and teach the people. And that way then we can really make a change in the society. And the people need to stop focusing their attention on these petty issues. Focus on knowledge and focus on seeking knowledge. You know, like people now, like everything now is just like, you know, you see all these buffoons and these clowns on social media. They're the ones getting all the attention. We need to start spreading the knowledge and they won't be getting attention anymore. Wallahi. Wallahi, if the people start memorizing the Quran, memorizing the Sunnah, and memorizing these matun, you know, like all the sciences. They start studying, you know, the correct aqidah. They start studying usul al-fiqh. They start studying mustalah hadith. You think they're going to want to listen to these clowns on YouTube or social media? Of course they're not. They're going to laugh at this. But that's only through the spreading of knowledge. We have to get serious. We have to take the death of our Shaykh. We have to take it as a message to us to wake up. To wake up. Because he's not replaceable right now. Even though he wasn't teaching and even though he wasn't known, but the people that know what that man had will tell you He is not replaceable right now. Allahumma musta'an. Allahumma musta'an. So just all of us, this advice to us all. Wake up. Wake up. We have these libraries, and they're not for show. They're not for show. They're not for just to like sit here and just like, you know, appear like we're some type of advanced students and, you know, no. They're there for a purpose of learning. You know, your books should be falling apart. So let's make these books fall apart. Start memorizing. Start focusing on spreading this knowledge. Because wallahi, it's only going to be us that's going to be regretful if we don't do this. Allahumma sta'an. Wa ilahuna subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk.